I'd like to call to order the September 12th, 2023 regular meeting of the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors to order. We will start with our land acknowledgement. Student Rep. Gilbertson will be presenting.
We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Coast Snohomish and Tulalip peoples. We express our deepest respect and gratitude for the ancestors of this land, on whose shoulders we stand. In Everett Public Schools, we strive to create equitable outcomes and build a culture of inclusive belonging for all students, teachers, and staff community.
Thank you very much, Student Rep. Gilbertson. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the secretary please call the roll?
President Lassane.
Present.
Vice President Mitchell.
Present.
Director Herman.
Present.
Director Mason.
Present.
Student Representative Kink.
Present.
Student Representative Gilbertson.
Present.
Thank you very much. Our first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Salzman, would you introduce this evening's agenda?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and to the public this evening. Tonight's agenda contains the following: the superintendent's report, a segment for board comments, a segment for public comments, segment for legislative updates, segment for routine business, segment for information discussion, segment for new business, and a segment for upcoming agenda items. Since publishing the agenda, the following changes was made to the agenda. Item 7.01, Superintendent's Report. The presentation was added. And item 13.01, Summer Start of School Update. The presentation was added. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salzman. Is there a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Director Mason and seconded by Director Herman to adopt the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the vote. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The motion carries. The agenda for this evening has been adopted. We shall now move to section 6.0, which is our recognition. There are no recognitions planned for this evening's agenda. Moving to section 7.0, we will have the superintendent's report. Dr. Salzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and the public this evening. Okay. Well, first of all, what incredible first days of the school year. Okay, and a big thank you to our teams here at the CRC who ventured out to schools to lead a helping hand. Also want to share thank you to all principals, assistant principals, teachers, and entire staff and community, because those first few days of school don't happen without everybody's support and great work. So I want to publicly thank everybody that supports and works in Everett Public Schools. We thank you, and thank you for making it a team effort. And yesterday, our kindergarten students came back.
Yeah.
And that was amazing to see them as they entered into school for the first time. And I was very lucky today to go to a class and speak to them. And I asked them how the first day was, and they said that recess and lunch was really fun. So it made my day. So I was really excited to see that and to welcome those youngsters and their families and parents. Welcome to the Everett Public School System now. You're part of the big family, so we welcome you. We are so excited to mention and to offer the Para to Teacher program for our paraprofessionals. Since 2022, 42 staff members have enrolled. This fall, we hired 8 teachers, 1 counselor, and 5 substitutes who graduated from this program. And kudos to Chad Golden and his HR department for helping make this happen. It doesn't happen alone, and what a great way to give back to our community and for upward mobility. So congratulations to those folks. Last week, we were happy to host a free childhood immunization clinic here at the CRC for our families. And I must tell you, it was quite crowded, and great to see our youngsters there with their families get immunized, as we could welcome you back to the schools and welcome you to this process. We filled all available appointments and help our kids get ready for a healthy school year. And just a reminder to our community, before you blink, it will be flu season. Stay healthy, get a good night rest, and keep doing the right thing. Again, thank you for making us have a great opening, because you did help us, everybody in this room and everybody out there in the Everett Public School system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saltzman. We'll now move to section 8.0, which is board comments. And the purpose of this agenda item is for the directors and the student representatives to have the opportunity to share. We're going to start at this end of the dais, and we'll go around, since we have a new student who don't want to make them do first.
I appreciate that, because I was hoping that would happen. Don't need to put any student into the hot seat just yet.
Not yet.
So I just want to recognize too the fact that Dr. Saltzman did a fabulous job of sending us as the board emails every day of the first few days of school, because just to make sure that we knew what was happening in the schools. And just, I really do appreciate that communication, because not having a student directly in the schools anymore, she's at a different school, that it just helped ease my mind as a director. I just want to have nothing else to share, except for that I see curriculum nights are going to be happening in the next few weeks, and I will be going to my own daughter's family weekend in a couple weeks. She is a senior, and I told her, because she graduated in 2020 and we didn't really have spring of a senior year, that I'm making all that I can of this senior year. So she's seeing me now in November. So it's good for all the parents that have students out there. So thank you.
Dr. Herman?
I want to start by just welcoming back our student representatives up here. It's wonderful, wonderful to have students back up with us, and a special welcome to Student Representative Kink. Really looking forward to working with you both, and I hope you both feel comfortable in bringing issues and concerns forward to the board. And just a reminder of how much we appreciate you here, and also how busy your schedules are as high school students. So thank you for spending the time and helping improve our board work. The first day of school, September 6th, I was able to get out to Jackson Elementary School and greet students and families as they were arriving. And as you remember, that was a beautiful sunny day. Parents and grandparents were taking pictures, first day pictures, such a great tradition. And just a shout out to, they already had the 5th grade patrol out and helping make sure people were crossing the crosswalk safely. So shout out and hats off to all of the patrols in our elementary schools. And again, I want to thank our district team for all the preparation and planning that really went into that first day and making it so smooth this first week. I think all of that paid off, and the foundation has been set for a really terrific year. So excited to get it started.
Director Mason?
Thank you. I just want to concur with Director Herman, welcoming our student representatives, and also just the planning that went into the launch of the school year, which has been just so greatly appreciated. Always a few small glitches, but certainly overall a very, very smooth beginning. And I too was able to get out that first day up to Evergreen Middle School, helping 6th graders find their first class, which was just really fun. Just such a, so many different personalities in middle school, actually in every school, but middle school seems to be that huge expanse of growth, both physically and emotionally. And then I got to go to View Ridge and help welcome. They let me blow bubbles, but apparently I was doing it wrong, because I was like flinging bubble juice all over everyone. So they had to like settle me down and tell me how to just blow the bubbles so that we'd make big bubbles. So anyhow, it was a great day. It was a beautiful morning, and it was just so much fun to be a part of the excitement. Thank you.
Thank you. Student Rep Kink?
Yeah, my start to the school year has been really smooth. Things got off to a pretty quick start, and personally, in the last 2 years, I feel like things are finally back to normal. There's a much more positive atmosphere in the hallways compared to last year. I feel like there's more participation in classes. And overall, it's just been like a really smooth start, not just for Jackson, but I feel like this is an overall sense in the district as well. My first day, and I guess week now, I didn't have any technology issues. It went really smoothly, and the homework's already starting to pile on. So, yeah, it's been pretty good.
Student Rep. Gilbertson.
Actually, Miss Mitchell, I was ready for the hot seat today. I was ready to go. And thank you for welcoming us back. And I have a lot to share from the first few days of school. And so I'm very happy to be back here this year. We had our first prep assembly on Thursday, and it was awesome to see the school spirit come back. It felt so much different this year. Just everyone, compared to like the first year we came back from COVID and our first prep assembly and just how low everything felt, when we were there, amazing feeling from all those students. And it was also awesome to see how Dr. Seltzman got around to all the schools, a lot of them on that first day, which is a lot of work. And I was able to hear from one of my peers at the job I work with and how we still had some schedule movement going on the first few days, which I'd expect. It's the first few days. So there was that. And then we had our leadership students outside of EHS in yellow vests that were there ready to greet new students, freshmen, just whoever needed help. We were told through our announcements that if you need help with anything, ask a teacher or ask these students, because that is what they have been working towards, is being leaders for our school. Also, we had our Camp Siegel, which is put on by our school, which where like the first 5 minutes of the class, we get a small lesson that is put together by the school. So like, it's really helpful for new students or freshmen especially, where like one of them was we got to learn all our counselors' names, all the lunch ladies' names, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's very helpful for first day back, just a little refresher where everything is sort of thing. I was also able to go to the baseball game this weekend, and that was really fun. And I was happy I got to contribute to that. And as well as we had an assembly today for our senior year, where Gear Up has been extended an extra year for our class of 2024, which I think is a really awesome experience, because I heard like we had a video through the assembly where we got to hear the student's voice from last year who had it and how amazing and helpful Gear Up was. So I'm really excited for that this year. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, I just would like to say welcome back, students, and welcome back, parents. I know the staff has been excited for your return. They've been really preparing over the summer, and we're all expecting a wonderful new year. I would also like to say thank you to the HR staff, Dr. Golden, for the work that we did as far as getting 54 paras in as teachers, certificated teachers, paras and administrative staff individuals. That is fantastic. And I would like to continue to see that program develop, because there's so many of our paras and administrative staff who would love the opportunity of being a teacher in our district. So thank you so much for the hard work you did in getting that program up and running to that many people. Thank you. So let's see, what else can I say? Oh, there is one thing I would like to say to our listening crowd on the Zoom. We are back at school now. There are buses on the road. Please, please, please ensure that when a bus stops and you see the red lights flashing, that you do stop for our students as they get off and get on the bus. Please make sure that if you're on a 2-lane road, both lanes of traffic must stop for our kids. If you're on a divided road where there is what we call, please, I take this back, a suicide, please, a suicide lane in the center. It's a divided road, you don't have to stop. But please, please ensure that our kids, when they leave home for school, that they also return home in the evening and they are not hampered by any traffic out there or cars out there that could do them harm. So please stop for our buses. Just coming in today, there were 2 buses that I happened to come across, and cars were not stopping for those students. So please stop. Moving right along, we'll now move to section 9.0, which is our public comment section. The school board specifically set aside time during a regular board meeting to hear from our constituents. We do this because we value public input and we want to hear and understand the perspective that you bring to the table. Our board meetings are designed to conduct district business. We welcome your ideas and opinions, but during this time, we are here to listen. We will not debate or discuss the item. You will get a follow-up through the mail. So please, when you are called to the podium, please come forward. Remember, the meeting is recorded, so we will have ample time to rehear your comments. Tonight, we have one individual, Mr. Thomas Fairchild, is an employee of the district as a district-wide substitute, and he wishes to make a presentation or comment to the board. Will you please come forward? You will have 3 minutes in which to speak. There are 3 blips on the top of the lectern. The first blip will come on, will be green. It will indicate you have time in that 3 minutes. When you see the yellow blip, it will indicate that you have 30 seconds left. And at the red blip will indicate that your time is up. So please plan accordingly.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Thomas Fairchild. In 2017, OSPI published a report titled Closing the Opportunity Gap in Washington's Public Education System. On the importance of diversifying our educator workforce, the report said, quote, "The teacher workforce in Washington does not reflect the racial and ethnic diversity of students in Washington." It continued, quote, "These differences have led to a teacher workforce that significantly lacks male teachers of color. As the student body in Washington grows more diverse, Washington must recruit, hire, and retain more teachers of color and male teachers. The capacity for schools to understand the broad range of experiences that students bring into the classroom and how those experiences impact student learning could be increased by creating an educator workforce that is more representative of the diverse students served. Educators of color often contribute a deeper cultural understanding of families and students of color. This knowledge can inform practices of their colleagues and address institutionalized racism, often overlooked by schools and school districts." End quote. So let's take a moment to dive into the data and see how Everett Public Schools has performed in the 5 years since OSPI's recommendations. Looking at a snapshot of the 2021-22 data, we can see that EPS's teachers do not reflect the diversity of its students. For example, we have over twice as many white teachers as we do white students. 46.8 of secondary EPS students had white teachers every class period. Over 2/3 of all EPS students saw only white teachers in their classrooms. Male students were disciplined at a rate almost 2.5 times their female peers. Compared to our neighbors, Mukilteo, Lake Washington, Edmonds, and Marysville, they all have more diverse teacher populations than Everett. Since 2017, our teacher workforce has gone from 89.8% white to 88.1% white, with no change in gender demographics. Assuming no change to recruitment and retention practices, it will take over 130 years for EPS's teachers' racial demographics to match its student body, and the teachers district will never achieve gender parity with its students. Given that we've had 5 years since the OSPI recommendations were published, and our data still indicates significant disparities in our educator workforce, my question is, how do you assess the board's efforts so far in creating a more diverse teaching environment? Furthermore, what concrete steps can we expect the board to take in the immediate future to align more closely with OSPI's guidelines and recommendations? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fairchild. Will you be leaving that presentation with us?
It will do you all, I think, more good than it will me. I kind of know everything on there already.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I
Thank
would
you for
request
coming.
that we get a copy of that.
Yes,
Just
I would, if,
A photo
if
or,
we
yeah.
can't get, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. We will now be moving to section 10.0, which is our legislative updates. The purpose of this agenda item is for the board's legislative representative and other directors to share legislative updates through their work in the district, in schools, and in the community as it pertains to work on the board. So our legislative representative is Director Herman. Director Herman, do you have any updates for us?
I do, thank you. And I appreciate the addition to our agenda for this item. Last week, WASA started up the Ledge Rep networking hours for the 23-24 school year, and they're planning on hosting these twice a month. A couple of things to note that were mentioned. I think some of us have been following the Wahkiakum School District v. State of Washington case these last couple of years, which revolves around the state's responsibility for the funding of school construction, whether school facilities should essentially be considered part of basic education. Last week, the state Supreme Court ruled that for the state and against the Wahkiakum School District on that, so essentially leaving responsibility with local school communities to run capital bonds and levy campaigns. In some sense, this would have been similar to another McCleary decision in terms of funding school facilities, but now with this ruling, there is speculation that there may be some renewed interest in the simple majority bonds. So that discussion that has been around these last couple of years. So we'll see where that goes, but that had just come down last week. So that was of interest. The big news is that for WASDA, the General Assembly is taking place September 22nd and 23rd, where school districts around the state will vote on proposals to WASDA's bylaws, permanent positions, and legislative positions. You should have all received the handbook via email on that. This year, there are a total of 48 items being brought forward, 1 proposed change to our bylaws, 18 new positions, 22 amendments to current positions, and 7 proposed retirement of existing positions. Those are ones that have already been incorporated into RCW or operationalized and felt they were no longer needed. So a few that seemed of interest, the bylaws amendment that is being proposed this General Assembly would get rid of the weighted votes for our WASDA elections. Currently, districts can call for a weighted vote on an item, and each district, based on their head count enrollment, would have between 1 and 19 votes. Here in Everett, for example, our 1 vote counts for 19 votes when a weighted vote is called. So this amendment would make it for it that each of the 295 school boards across the state, each district would simply get 1 vote. So that'll be interesting. That's on the agenda for the 22nd. There's a proposal for a new position on transition to kindergarten, essentially stating that WASDA would oppose policies or legislation that restricts a district's ability to create or maintain a transition to kindergarten program. If you remember last year when legislation, a bill was brought forward on transitional kindergarten, which did ultimately pass the legislature, WASDA was not able to weigh in on that because there was not an approved position statement that they could fall back on. So this would clear the path for WASDA advocacy on that. Another interesting one that I thought you all would be interested in is regarding artificial intelligence AI technology. The proposal would have WASDA initiate or support legislation that establishes a regulatory authority on this that provides, among other things, ongoing oversight, standards for ethics and privacy practices, as well as amply funding professional development for educators and staff on understanding how these technologies work, how to recognize inherent bias and issues that exist within them, and how to use them as effective and ethical learning and teacher resource tools. And I know that AI and ChatGPT have come up in conversations regularly. So I think many districts would welcome some guidance and support on that. But so hopefully if you have a chance for directors to take a look at the handbook, after the General Assembly, once the platform is set, we will be prioritizing positions. And then November 3rd is when WASDA will be announcing their legislative priorities, and legislative session begins second week in January. So just let me know if you have any questions. That's a week from Friday.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Director Herman. We'll now move to section 11.0, which is our consent agenda. Dr. Salzman, would you provide an introduction to our consent agenda?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and to the public this evening. The board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items such as meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, surplus lists, gifts, grants, and recurring contracts. Sometimes it includes items that occur less frequently but are of routine business nature. These items are usually reviewed by the board in the Friday report 1 or more weeks before the board meeting. This gives directors time to ask staff questions or consider discussion about the policy implications of those items. The board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By its definition, a consent agenda is not debatable. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office did not receive any questions regarding the consent agenda. The consent agenda is presented as published for board approval. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salzman. A motion to adopt the consent agenda is now in order.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Director Mitchell and seconded by Director Herman to approve the consent agenda. Does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda, place it under new business to be heard at that point in time in this agenda? Hearing no requests, we'll now proceed to the vote. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries and the consent agenda is approved. We'll now move to section 12.0, which is strategic progress monitoring. There are no strategic progress monitoring reports that were scheduled for this evening's agenda. Moving to section 13.0 is our information discussion section, and we will be hearing a summer start of school update. And our presenters are 3 people, and Kathy Reese is at the podium, so she has the program.
Okay, there we go. President Linsane, Board of Directors, and Dr. Salzman, thank you for the opportunity to share with you tonight our summer and start of school presentation. We are going to start tonight by reviewing the summer learning opportunities and the things that we provided for the summer, as well as summer graduation, which many of you were at. And then we're going to do a brief conversation about the enrollment status update, and then get into some operational items regarding the first day of school, first week of school. When we had our board study session a few weeks ago, we did talk about all the preparation leading up to this, and this will be the result of that preparation. So we're going to start with bringing Dr. Willard up to the podium.
Thank you. So as you might know, summer starts long before summer. Even now, we plan for next summer. So for this past summer, starting in May, we launched our summer learning program. And the theme of that program was Wild About Learning. On our district website, we had a great video. It had reading of the book Wild About Books and launched the information about our program this summer. It was focused on all of our students K-12. If you're in elementary school, you experienced our librarians talking to classes and to individual students about our summer learning resources that were available on the district website. We had reading, math, and science lessons that were launched each week. And then for all of our students, we had connections to our public library and to our public library programs that students across our schools participated in. Right now, our schools are checking in with kids about their participation, and they will celebrate kids this fall and what they did while they were on break and getting ready for the school year. We also hosted this summer our Middle School Summer Academy, which has 4 separate programs within one program. It's a 3-week program, 175 students were part of it, And it took place on the campus where we also have our high school program at Cascade High School. So our core program is the Math and English Language Arts Summer Academy. It includes curriculum that's focused on social emotional learning, novel studies, close reading, that's the focus on English language arts, and then math foundations and math problem solving, really real world problems and how they go about solving those. There's a lot of focus on progress monitoring. It starts with the pre-test and post-test, and throughout the program, there's interventions and steps for students along the way. Really high interest reading also takes place. I love the books that they have. The kids usually love them too. We also have an ongoing program called our Bridge to Accelerated Math Academy. It's for our students who are entering 7th and 8th grade, so they can enter the pathways of our more accelerated math program. So for Bridge to Accelerated Math, students in 6th grade go on to 7th grade for the 7th grade accelerated math program, and our 7th to 8th graders are actually able to take algebra as a result of quite a bit of learning that takes place over those weeks. We also host our Multilingual Learners Summer Academy for students who are eligible for that program, mostly newcomers, but students of every range of ML. We also have our extended school year services. This is for students with IEPs to continue their learning from the school year based on their IEP team's decision. We also, as I was sharing, had our high school summer academy. We had 526 students who participated. It was the same 3 weeks at Cascade High School. As you probably already know, we have our credit recovery program and a lot of our summer graduate support. We had over 1,000, it was actually 1,060 half credits that were earned over the summer. So lots of students making up credits and also advancing credits, which is really the next bullet. Online high school that we offer, many students taking PE, math, social studies, English, our college and career readiness seminar, health, goodies like that, to get ahead and open up their schedule throughout the school year. We have a Multilingual Learner Summer Academy for our high school students, for students who qualify. We have an extended school year program for our students with IEPs, who again, their IEP team decides that that is the best fit over the summer. We also have some exciting programming around our Everett Career Link, so students can participate in career exploration, mentorship, our internships. We had internships in business and professional communications and information, educational studies, medical careers. We had close to 60 students participate in the internship program. It was great. We also, for the last few summers, have had our Empower You program, which we also offer during the school year. But during the summer, it's a real companion piece with a lot of our summer pieces. So Empower You is really goal setting for students with a coach online, and they learn around wellness, self-regulation, and resiliency. So there's lessons tied to that, really tied to their post-secondary plans, but also how they're going to make it to high school graduation. Just ramping up through the summer here, we landed August 17th on our summer graduation, which was hosted at Civic Auditorium. We had 25 graduates who participated, who represented all of our high schools and Graduation Alliance. We also had students who graduated outside of participating there, so just so that you recognize some of the students are not there during the summer. After that ceremony, we actually had more students who finished. We had 14 more that finished through Graduation Alliance, and we had another one from Cascade. So it was great to see them finish up their requirements in time for that August 31st deadline. One of the things that when you're thinking about graduation requirements and students finishing and what our graduation rates look like, because we're working on compiling all of our rates right now, there's a lot of different moving pieces. But just as sort of a rough estimate, we have about 1,200 students each year that graduate. It ekes up every year. Both our rates go up and we have more kids, as we hope. And it's roughly something like 12 students equals 1%. So every student really counts when we talk about helping them all the way through graduation and then making sure that they're really ready with a post-secondary plan. So with that, I want to hand over the podium to Ms. Tress.
Thank you. I'm very excited to talk about enrollment and where we're landing. And for those of you who don't know, each month we do an account of how many students we have to calculate what we need for what we're going to get for funding throughout the year. October 1st is our big sort of driver of that day, and we're basing. We look at what October 1st is going to be going to be at based on our September information. And yesterday was that official count for us. And we're going to be about 92 higher than our budgeted amount, which is where we want to be. We want to be above what our budgeted amount is, and this is really great information. And as we go through the process of looking at our staffing and staffing and all the items there, we're allocating staffing and ensuring we're staffing aligned with where the students are at. Thank you. And we'll go to Kathy.
So the first day of school, we transported over 14,000 students. Bus rolled out at 6 a.m. and they hit 140 different bus routes. And the first day of school, we were already serving 23 out-of-district KIT kids. So transportation started out busy from day one. And the biggest restaurant in Everett, we served 9,389 meals the first day. That is 7,775 lunches and 1,614 breakfasts. So I put pictures of the orange chicken that secondary had and the French bread pizza that elementary had, just to get you ready for dinner coming up. So you can look at those and think about what you're going to cook. And also maintenance, we talked about at the last meeting, the spreadsheets that they followed to make sure that every building was ready. Well, this year, the day before school started, a group of them went out and just did in-person spot checks at random buildings and had some just really great reviews about how things looked. So that was a helpful thing for maintenance to do as well. And then HR, as you've heard a lot about today, did an amazing job of making sure that every teaching position in the district was filled on the first day. So that is 591 elementary teachers, 209 middle school teachers, and 278 high school teachers. So a total of 1,078 teachers in classrooms on the first day of school. And that includes 61 new hires and 21 internal transfers. So the first day of school, everything was ready and worked well. And we also had lots of fun. So you can see that if you follow the district on any social media channels, you can see we did something new this year called EPS Smiles. And we provided these little frames for all the schools to have at their curriculum nights, their opening schools, to meet the teacher, their lid days, just so we could start getting lots of pictures about what's happening in the schools. And they did, the staff and the administration did an amazing job welcoming kids and welcoming families. And they quickly got into learning their school routines and the classroom routines as well. And part of that EPS Smiles is us wanting to do better at telling our story this year. There's so many great things that happen in our schools that we don't know about enough to go and tell the story, right? So we're working really hard at finding ways to get those stories from the classroom out so people can see the great things that are happening. And so part of that is the EPS Smiles, but we're doing things for opening events and school newsletters. You can see down on the bottom, that's the Evergreen school newsletter that went out for a family kickoff and a family s'more. And we try really hard to look at the school individual events and celebrations and share them on the district as well, because sometimes the district has a larger following than some of the schools do. So every day we take 5 or 6 from the different schools and get them out there so we can start letting people see those great things that are happening. Also, last month, we started a promotion to get more members on our advisory councils. So we, from the promotion, we got 27 people who were interested in 4 different advisory councils that were looking for new members. So our Technology Advisory Council, our Fiscal Advisory Council, Capital Facilities Advisory Council, and our newest council, the Sustainability Advisory Council, all got people interested that they could interview for their membership. Now, the next step is we're getting together a list of councils that would like student voice, because we want to be able to get students on these councils as well. So we're going to gather the ones that need it and send it out to administration. In the past, we've kind of done, oh, I need some, can you help? I need some, can you help? So this time we're trying to get an overall who all needs student voice, and we can just do it all at once and let the students see what opportunities are out there to be on the council and to give us their voice. And it's not just for advisory councils, it's also for things like last year when we had them give feedback on the calendar. So ways that they can help us hear what they think about different things. So we're in the process of doing that right now. And then on the horizon, we have our first Let's Connect meeting on October 17th. This will be held by region, and the promotions will start soon. The Let's Connect is going to use our strategic plan to frame, to share about the amazing work happening across the districts and the schools. So families can come and see how the strategic plan impacts their school and their student. It will be an open by each regional and then the breakouts by schools at those events. So you'll see the location of those soon, but it is going to be held at 6 o'clock on October 17th. And with that, I'll end you with this cute little face and ask if you have any questions or reflections.
Directors, are there any questions? And student reps as well. Do you have any questions? Yes, Director Mason.
So quite timely, I had an article come across my computer regarding summer school programs. And it was a study done by a group of 14 researchers from Harvard University and the American Institutes for Research. And essentially what they found is that, quote, minuscule gains in math and no improvement in reading after looking at, I think it was quite a few large districts. And the two main reasons are that it's too short and there's very little participation. And in the participation piece of it, one of the items that they cited was location matters. So kids are less likely to go to a school that's not their own, that's unfamiliar. And this is probably all stuff that you know, but I guess, tonight you presented us with what we do for summer school or summer opportunities, and they're very diverse. But in particular on the math and the ELA, where we're trying to get ourselves out of a bit of a hole from the last several years. My question is, how are we measuring summer school success? Because it costs money, and we want to make sure that we're putting our dollars where it really is impactful. And so that is not a specific question I'm asking tonight, but that is something I'm hoping a year from now, when you're providing that information, other than the credits, which are an easy one to track, and sure. Where is summer school valuable to our students? And if the answer is yes, how do we know that, I guess? And then I had one other topic.
Go right ahead.
And it's just, I'm so happy to see the enrollment. It feels like we're maybe back to pre-pandemic kind of numbers. We even went beyond the medium projection of Les Kendrick. So that's a good thing. So thank you.
Director Herman, you have a question?
Just to follow up, and you don't need to come back up, Dr. Willard, but it was specific to similar to Director Mason's comment, the bridge to accelerated math. That does seem like it would be interesting to compare those students, how they're doing in the next level course. Is that sufficient to, leap forward? And just kudos again. I'd love seeing these updates on everything and all the numbers associated with that. I'm also curious, and this is low on the priority, if all of our schools have mascot costumes. I love that celebration at the beginning of the year. So it's something to think about, but thank you.
Director Mitchell, you have a question?
I have a question. I know Jeannie just sat down. Yeah, I guess my question is, because I noticed the middle school numbers, 175 students just seems really low. And I know there's no funding for it anyway, so it is just sort of like, not that we're want every student there, but how are those students selected? Was that small number because of need on their behalf? And to Director Mason's question, not just credits, but did we see change?
So in terms of
Small
who was
numbers.
selected, they
Yeah.
had to be eligible even for the English language arts and math based on their SBA scores. And then it was opened up, and then it became first come because we only had so many spots based on the number of sections we could have. So it was a combination. And for any of the other programs, they were eligible. Any student who wanted to be in the Bridge program was able to be in those classes, so nobody was turned away. Just so you have that as input. All of our special services programs are fully funded and developed. And for our credit recovery, it was very similar to the numbers we've seen over the years. So that was pretty much a full program, a little bit smaller in terms of the online component, but not much smaller than what we've had over many years.
Okay, thank you. But
Yeah.
for those students, there's 175 though, especially the kids that do need that extra support. Do we track how many of them took advantage versus those that didn't? And
Because it's open, it's very hard to say. There are many more students
okay,
who
but
would
does
meet
it-
the eligibility.
I guess my question is, are students and families invited because of their
Yes.
need? And do we know how many accepted versus that didn't? That we made that specific invitation to? Because if not that you have to answer it now, but because we see that need based on their scores and we invited, and if there is funding, it'd be a shame of those that, to really understand those that selected not to. Is it not their home school? Is it because of family? Is it, what are the barriers? Because maybe there are opportunities, especially if we can show benefit, to Director Mason's point. Was there a missed opportunity that maybe the families don't understand? And maybe we need to understand more about what their position is. So again, just a question for thought, because if that could be all need, that would be wonderful. So
I'd like to add to that too. Next year, when we start looking at planning for summer school, since we started so
We start
early.
now. By the way, I already started.
To perhaps focus in on what type of impact we expect to see and what has history, given us. Like this past summer, what was the impact? What was the outcome? What do we know kids gained from that? There's so much that other than just credits.
Yes, and so it sounds like the focus on that question is really around our middle school program, the ELA and Math Summer Academy. And because we do track that, key standards that are from their grade levels are monitored. And we did see growth in those standards between 12 and 57% for those classes. Now, what that might look like over the school year and tied into their SBA and iReady, depending upon what grade level they were in, that is something that we don't have simply because they have just started the school year. So that part of the impact, we don't have the information. But the actual tracking from that period of time, we do very closely, lots of tracking on all of our students. And also to the statement about how students are invited, they are invited, but because students also have to sign up with so many limited spots, I'm not sure we always collect information about why they didn't. It's simply that sometimes by the time they were willing or, worked out their summer schedule, it is that we were already very full. So with limited spots, some of that layer of what you might have questions about doesn't really happen to that extent.
yeah, I guess,
Yeah.
sorry, it is though, the kids that need it, even if they're slow, kids that want to get ahead, that's fabulous. But the kids that need it, if they can't get in because it's full,
Yeah.
shame on us, I guess that's my message. Because, I have a daughter that was advanced, but there are kids that if they need it, I really struggle with us not offering to the kids that most need it.
Yes.
Can I
Oh, yeah,
add really
go ahead.
quickly? I just want to actually add that we are currently starting our planning. Jeannie, Dr. Willers, of course, started some of that and looking at summer school for 2024, but our teams are actually getting together. Actually, one of them is getting together tomorrow to start unpacking what are the summer programs that we want to offer, what can we do, and while I do think that there's a lot of research about what we do in the classroom right now during the school year and intervening in real time, is really optimizing that student's opportunity to get that learning with those practitioners in the classroom now. But we can also start thinking about, well, what are some things that we can do that might not necessarily be closing gaps, but at least giving opportunities for enrichment, giving opportunities for students who may need additional support, and what makes the most sense and is also fiscally sound. So I'd love to be able to present you a bunch of answers right now, but what we're doing right now is planning and thinking and trying to be really creative and thinking outside of the box to innovate around what can we do to provide better services for our students, both intervention and enrichment in summer programming.
I just want to add one more comment that the funding for summer school is not paid for by the state, and I want to say that publicly, but it is paid for by our local levy dollars, which our voters approved. And so I don't like hearing, I know we had, last year was a atypical budget year, and we really did have to right size a lot of programs, and the summer school was one of them. But the fact that we are given funding from voters for those extracurricular type programs, summer school being one of them, and the fact that we, had to potentially turn students away that could really use that extra learning opportunity, I would like to see that taken into consideration as we move forward.
Absolutely.
One additional question, and thank you. This has been a great presentation. I always like to hear what we did over the summer for our kids, because it is a resource that they don't get during the school year, and it's important that they continue their learning throughout the summer. I have a question regarding Everett Career Link. You said we had 60 internships programmed this past summer.
Yes.
That is a large number, and
Yeah.
that is wonderful. How has that grown over the years when we first started? And is it a program in which we need to perhaps put additional resources to get more kids involved? Because some of these kids actually find a career and get focused in on that career after an internship program.
Absolutely. It has grown. It was, I believe, 35 students last year. So you can see the numbers are ticking up. Our CTE department proudly has been recruiting students and getting kids interested in the programs that are there. And now that we are out of the pandemic phase, a lot of in-person experiences are really available. So tying those two together, and they do
Yes.
early recruitment of students, has really grown the program.
That is a
Yeah.
program that, career paths is something that we cannot stop on, because having somewhere for kids to turn, or even the opportunity to explore different avenues, because you may then down the road decide to change somewhere and go to something different, is very important, because kids do change their minds.
Yes, they do.
So thank you very much for the presentation. Are there any further questions? Student reps, no questions? Thank you. We'll now move to the next opportunity. We'll move to section 14.0, which is unfinished business. There is no unfinished business report scheduled for this meeting agenda. Moving now to new business, section 15.0. We have 4 items on policies, and our presenter is Mr. Fleckenstein. Mr. Fleckenstein, would you step forward? Go for it.
Thank you. To begin, policy 1441, audience participation. Revisions are to comply with House Bill 1210, which requires school districts to make and retain for no less than 1 calendar year an audio recording of all regular and special board meetings where final action is taken or formal public testimony is accepted. The recording must include school board members' comments, as well as public comments made during the public comment period, if any. The requirement to record meetings does not extend to executive sessions or emergency meetings and does not become effective until June 30th of 2024, and are provided for your consideration this evening.
We're currently keeping them for 1 year. Is that not correct, Jared? Longer than that? Okay, so we're already abiding by the requirement.
That's my understanding.
Director, do you have any questions?
No, actually, I was going to point out on our website, it looks like it goes back to 2009 with the audio, and then and then video even at some point. So I feel like Everett has been exceeding this requirement for some time. Yeah.
That's correct.
I guess I just have one clarifying question about, it says executive session, and since we also have closed sessions, which are private, is closed a type of executive session, so it doesn't need to be specifically said, or do both need to be listed?
Both needs to be listed because they have different requirements and
Yeah,
rules.
so that's why I'm wondering, it just says except executive sessions, and I wonder if it should read executive or closed sessions. It's just a question of, I don't know the answer. Suggestion.
Can you check in on that one, Mr. Plegenstein?
I'd be glad to do so.
Yeah, that was my only thing I noticed, was it, just because it specifically, we do have closed sessions and those are not recorded, so, thank you.
Any further questions? With that, checking in on that one item, we can move this to second reading by general consent.
Yeah, with that clarity, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have policy 1610, conflicts of interest. The revisions here are to comply with House Bill 1577, which increases the monthly contract value for which municipal officers may have beneficial interest from $15,000 to $3,000. And in this case, it's specifically referring to board of directors and officers of the district.
Any questions? Well, shall move these to second reading.
Thank you. Next, we have a policy 5010, affirmative action and non-discrimination. Revisions comply with House Bill 1207 regarding harassment, intimidation, bullying, and discrimination allegations involving a staff member. Will now use this policy and its procedure to handle such complaints. Additional language has been updated to the policy regarding discriminatory harassment, employment of persons with disabilities, and non-discrimination for military service. Definitions have also been added to the grievance procedure section. Overall, these revisions are intended to clarify our processes and better align with Washington state law.
I did have one question on this one, and thank you very much for not just including Vietnam veterans, but all veterans, and thank you so very much. My question is on page 2 at the top paragraph. It talks about district employees shall be free from harassment based on legal protected attributes or characteristics, and the district shall implement programs and practices that value diversity, ensure equity, build understanding, awareness, appreciation of the diverse array of human characteristics, needs, and perspectives that influence the district's environment. That's still part of our values. Is there a reason why we chose to eliminate the second sentence there?
Yeah, the reorganization of the policy to update it, as you can see in the title heading that precedes it, which is examples of discriminatory harassment include but are not limited to. And that follows just towards the end of that, their clarification piece. Those other elements that have been taken from this particular policy have been rewritten into other aspects of the language of the policy down below, and then also exist, as you probably recall, in other policies of the board. For example, your diversity, equity, and inclusion policy has some of those same similar elements in it.
I understand that being similar elements, but to eliminate the value statement, because that value doesn't change, and having that value sentence in there, what we value as important, is very meaningful.
Yes, the same similar statement you can see here in the policy itself under the equal employment opportunity section. For example, it says equal employment opportunity and treatment for all applicants and employees, and will not tolerate unlawful practices. And it goes on to then, which is the section that's been eliminated down below,
Right.
exists here in terms of our non-discrimination statement of the district. So with respect to a legally protected characteristic, which include the following, and then we list those things
Right.
for which we do not. And those have been incorporated here and aligned to our non-discrimination statement that we use in multiple places across the district.
And I understand what you're saying, so, but I still like the sentence is, I like the sentence so much so because it identifies our values. It, you know, we ensure equity, we build understanding, awareness, appreciation of the diverse array of human characteristics, needs, perspectives that influence the district environment. Just the sentence alone. I know it doesn't, those particular words say so much into what we value as a district that to eliminate, remove it, because it's nowhere in the remaining portion of the policy does it actually say specifically those words, specifically.
I'm happy to make a revision to the policy and bring it back to you for a second reading.
I think that's nice. Agree. I mean, I think I appreciate what you said.
Any further questions?
I prefer short and concise. I think it's captured the way it's written, but I don't have a problem with revising.
Director Herm.
Actually, the question is not specific on this. We have a policy review committee. Can you remind us all again, just, are they reviewing all of these or just new ones? Can you just speak a little bit about that since we're on policy right now?
Yes, the Policy Review Council meets at a minimum 4 times a year. It has not yet met this year. Most of the policies presented to the board this early in the school year are to comply with the law as written, and having received WASDA model policy updates halfway through August, we are working quickly to update the board's policies as fast as we can. So Policy Review Council has not seen this particular one that's presented this evening.
Thank you.
So with that being said, with your clarification of the particular policy and the wording there, we'll move this to second reading once you have reached clarity.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then finally, this evening, Policy 5310, Compensation, Payroll Deductions and Benefits. The proposed revisions comply with Senate Bill 5650 regarding K-12 employees, salary or inflationary increases. For the 2023-24 school year, the legislation changes the inflationary adjustment index to 3.7%. For the 24-25 school year, this legislation has defined the inflationary adjustment index as the implicit price deflator for the previous calendar year. And this particular set of revisions you can see is related to compensation for our employees, is identified for represented and non-represented groups, and how this particular law will impact future compensation.
Are there any questions? Yes, Director Herman.
Just checking my own understanding on this. So, and essentially, this is, we are required, it's a non-negotiable to pass along this inflation adjustment. And in return, the state is basically, is sort of promising to fold that into our funding from the state level. So this is something that all school districts must follow.
Your summary of what we are obliged to do under the change in law, I believe is accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Clarity? We shall move this on to second reading by general consent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Fleckenstein. We'll now move to section 16.0, which is upcoming agenda items. Dr. Salzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and the public this evening. At the October 3rd special meeting, the board members will have the board candidate selection. At the October 10th, 2023 meeting, the agenda contains the following: presentation for post-secondary enrollment patterns, several policies for review, a recognition of the core value champions, enrollment update, coffee chat discussion, transitional bilingual instructional program grant, City University grant, PSTA grant, Millennial Ministries contract, and Homeless Student Stability Education Program grant. Thank you.
Very much, Dr. Saltzman. Seems like that's going to be a busy policy meeting. It's going to be a busy policy meeting. Okay, we'll now move to section 17.0, which is our executive closed session. There is no executive or closed session planned for this meeting. So we'll now move to section 18.0, which is adjournment. This concludes the business scheduled to come before the Board of Directors on this day. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.